Peace, what's going down? It's DJ Payne 1 for Beatstars.com. On the line with my man Tecknowledgy, who's a producer who's been doing a lot of dope stuff for a long time. So if you don't know his resume and his body of work, you're about to. What's going down? Appreciate you joining us tonight.
What's going on, Payne 1? Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor.
We've interacted back and forth on social media, but I don't know the full Tecknowledgy story. So how long have you been making beats?
I'm going on 16 years.
I don't want to say whether or not I'm close to that number, so I'm just going to skip to the next question. What's your DAW of choice? I'm looking back at your screen and I see Reason. Is that your weapon?
Ableton, actually. I switch back and forth between that and MPC 2.0.
Am I hallucinating? Is there not Reason on that computer?
There is.
Okay.
I have Reason and Fruity, and yeah, I dabble in a lot, but I use Ableton and MPC the most.
What made you try all those different platforms out?
I started out on FL back when it was just Fruity Loops, way back in the day. And then I actually won a machine from an iStandard battle I did a very long time ago. And after that, I kind of made the small transition to hardware, learned, and then as the older machine came out and the new machine models started rolling out, I decided to upgrade a little bit, went to Ableton, had a push for a little bit, broke, just kind of stuck with the hardware and the software. I got the MPC Studio, and I've been working on pretty much those two primarily for the last 2 years. So
are you running the MPC Studio in the traditional way?
Yes.
Okay, I'm curious why, because you could just MIDI slave it to your DAW and basically do the same thing. Is there a sonic difference?
To me, there is. Just the way the stock plug. Now the Ableton 10's stock plugins are ridiculous, so it's not really a factor now. But I've been running the MPC through Ableton now. But back when I was on Ableton 9, it was just too much to load all the VSTs at the same time of loading the software and the hardware and running everything at the same time. It was kind of killing my computer usage. So when 10 came out, it was just a game changer for everything. So it just made things a lot easier on that front.
All right, so within your 16-year career, at what point did you decide to start selling beats online?
About 3 years ago. Mike Trampy and I have gone back many, many, many moons. And I was trying to make the transition from consciously attempting to blindly email stuff and not get anywhere and the traditional producer frustration to actually making the transition to Beatstars and online platforming and online branding. It actually changed a lot from the traditional hustle and bustle to going out and studio hopping and what I was doing before, going to every festival, to finally having a platform, having a full feature website, Beat Store, where everyone can just check out the entire catalog and do what they need to do from there. And it's not that I haven't stopped building relationships since then, but it's made those relationships a lot easier to form online through a Beat Store, in my opinion.
You've done the label runs, you've gone those traditional routes. What have you learned about selling beats online in terms of how it differs from, jumping from studio to studio, going up to New York, getting meetings with A&Rs?
The beat marketplace is worldwide. You can literally get any beats to anybody in any country at any time during the day. Doing it effectively, and from a lot of what Mike has taught me, from what everyone at Beatstars has pretty much schooled me on, is tracking who's coming, tracking who's going, tracking everything that, customer-wise, and even if they're not buying anything, send them a quick little message or an email like, hey, I noticed, you were browsing such and such a beat off of such and such a time. If I give you a promo code, would you buy it? 9 times out of 10, they're not going to stop you with a promo code, but then because you hit them up directly, you're kind of, in a sense, building that relationship with indie artists or anybody who's coming to your page and building it that way. Whereas, even if you were going the traditional route before, it was very hit or miss. Now people are actually attracted to you. You're the brand, you're the market. So having them come to you is a lot easier in that aspect, especially when you know who's looking for what.
A big thing that a lot of Beatstars producers have emphasized to me is upload schedules. What's your uploading schedule like?
110% honest, last few weeks hasn't been great. But usually 1 to 2 beats a week. I do the beat, mix it down, get everything scheduled, do the artwork, do the video on the same day. Schedule that I usually do is called Tecknowledgy Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, there's 1 to 2 beats that you're going to expect from me every single Tuesday. If you've been visiting regularly, I notice you've been visiting regularly. You sign up for the email list. I'll send you a promo code and toss you just because you've been there every Tuesday listening in how it goes. But it's good to stay consistent, especially even if you're just starting out. If you're getting a few beats up once or twice a week, it helps build not just your catalog, but it shows people that you're actually investing time in your craft and building things in that as well. So the consistency is definitely key with being successful, definitely in online beat sales.
Okay, so this goes without saying. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. We see the kid's desktop in the background.
Yes.
And you produced his record, Traffic in the Sky.
Yes, I did.
And he actually claimed that that was his favorite track off of that tape.
Yes.
How did that relationship start? How did you meet Mac Miller, and how did that record get recorded?
So back in 2010, I was working with a rapper slash R&B artist known as Scala. He's out of Detroit, and his manager is actually JID's current manager over at Dreamville. He had a good relationship with everyone at Rostrum and in the Pittsburgh scene, and Mac had literally just come off of, the song Live Free, and Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza kind of jumped off, and Nike's on My Feet jumped off, and he was like, Tech, you should shoot Mac a couple beats here and there, and I'll send you his email. Back when AOL Instant Messenger was a thing, I had Mac's screen name. We hit it up. We chopped it up a couple times, and I sent him like a batch. A couple weeks later, he's like, yo, I'm putting out a music video. You should probably check it out. And the music video was Traffic in the Sky and Don't Mind If I Do, that he put out. And that's how I kind of found out that I was on Kids. And he was like, this mixtape's about to be huge. We're putting out the rostrum. And, I was very thankful for Barry and for Scala for hooking me up with Mac and building that relationship and helping me guide through that. And for everything that song has personally done for me. It was featured in a couple different clothing ads. It's currently being played at the Pittsburgh Penguins games, and a lot of different opportunities have come to me thanks to that.
Well, congratulations on the 8-year anniversary of that tape, and evidently it's gone diamond on thatpiff.com, which means it's been downloaded a lot of freaking times.
Yes, almost 2 million from the last time I checked.
What was the process of creating that beat like on your end?
The sample originally, I am a big anime head, so I used to go back and download like tons and tons and tons of anime soundtracks, and when I heard that specific sample, I ran with it. I was like, this has such like a vibe, like it was so wavy, and the way I flipped it at the time, like, if you listen to the track now, there's like a clap. There was a snare in there before. There wasn't any tams. It was literally just the sample and a kick and a bass snare. And when I went and changed it, Mac had actually asked me if I could add like 1 or 2 things to it. I did so, not thinking, whatever, fine, yeah, okay. And the beat, was relatively quick to make, and I wasn't even thinking anything of it. Added it to a batch, and the rest was literal history.
Let me ask you this, because this has come up a lot, especially with producers like Curtis King. I had this conversation a little bit with Jay Reed. Do you find that your simpler beats that are straightforward in terms of layers and not having too much going on, do those tend to inspire rappers to want to rap more than kind of the overproduced records, I kind of fall in that trap sometimes myself.
You're laughing a little bit. Yes, I go in sometimes. Dream Life and I have collaborated on a couple of jams recently, and a lot of what I want to do with the record is like, man, this could be a smash, and I'm gonna add like 1,000 drums, and the break line is gonna be this and that, and it's never that simple. Even if you cut out a little bit, look at the process of like what Dilla used to do, or like what Knife does, or producers like that who literally could be just a sample, a kick, and a snare, and people jump all over it. So it also depends on the lane you're going in. If you want to have like a rapper rapping on it, or you want to make like a song, yeah, the simpler the better, because even then, if you want to have someone come and play instrumentation on it or change things up in the long run, it makes things easier being simple. But if you're going for like the trap sound and the rolling hi-hats and the 808s all over the place and all the noises and bells and whistles, then that could be your lane, and that's how that goes. But yeah, I believe in my whole thing, the simpler the better. A lot simpler the better.
So the two other artists that you've worked with that many people have heard of are Rhapsody and Chevy Woods. Tell me about that. What'd you do with those two artists?
Rhapsody, I met Rhapsody at an A3C conference one year. Same time I met pretty much the whole Jamla squad, Actual Proof, Sean Bug, and the whole camp, Sky Zoo. Shouts to all those folks. And Rap introduced me to Charlie Smarts and Tab One of Cooley High, and they were like, "Oh, we should all like do some records together and whatever." I was like, "Yeah, okay." They were all based in New York at the time, and when I made the trip to New York for CMJ, we kind of linked up. We all sat down in my hotel room, went through a gang of beats, and they picked one. It kind of ended up being like a small little cipher type deal in the hotel room, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll take that back. We'll take that back. We'll write to it." And Rap recorded her verse first. It's actually the last verse on the track, but the whole group came as a collective and really put it down on that one. That one was definitely a good vibe to make for that one. When you're talking the simpler the better, that's definitely one of the simpler beats I did. Chevy kind of came along the same way as the Mac relationship, only I met Chevy through a New York producer named Rodney Hazard. We linked up at a CMJ one year, and we just build, and I ended up linking with them, and I met him and Wiz at one point at a South by Southwest thing. We kicked it for a while, and Chevy ended up recording the jam at South by Southwest. It came out, and that was pretty much a dope one too, being around in that atmosphere, and especially when Pittsburgh was really on the rise at the time, and that atmosphere really helped build the vibe for that one as well. It was definitely two awesome records.
Back to Pittsburgh, Mac Miller had an artist named Chew Jackson who you did some work with as well, correct?
Yes.
How did that happen?
So Chew and I used to produce for Chew's rap group called Fresh Money way back in the early 2000s. I introduced Chew and Mac to each other because Mac was just starting the Most Dope imprint, and he wanted to grab a couple folks to see who gelled with what. And I suggested Chew to him because Chew was always like, he still is always a very hungry artist and wants to, make as much music as he can. And at the time, I was just, throwing beats out, throwing ideas out. We were working, and he was kind of giving me the same lane for what his first debut mixtape on Most Dope. It's called Beer Flavored Pizza. That came out, and I had produced the one track that's on it. It was actually supposed to have a Mac feature, but they didn't get it recorded in time. But when they went on tour and they did everything together, they did a couple shows in Atlantic City that I was great to be a part of, and Mac knew all the words to the song. Mac was the hype man for the song, and it was definitely awesome to know that something that was so simple off of a regular basic relationship and building over the years ended up being something where your music gets played in front of sold out crowds and people know the words, and one of the biggest artists coming out at the time knows the words to your songs and is the hype man for that. So building off that was definitely dope. It introduced me to a lot of the remaining artists that were on Most Dope at the time. You know, shouts to Yamza and the Come Up Boys and all those folks that were there. But that definitely opened the lane for Pittsburgh to get blown wide open.
So let's talk producers. I'm fortunate to know a lot of legendary producers. One of them is Rockwilder. I've been fortunate to do a couple events with him, and you know him as well.
I do.
And you work extensively with his son.
I do, yes.
What's that situation about?
A different and funny situation at the same time. I met Rock at another producer event in Boston, and I had actually, you know, came in like second or something in the competition, and he pulled me aside afterwards. He said, "Teck, you know, you got to send me a whole gang of stuff like tonight." And I'm like, "All right, Rock, I'll get you some stuff." You know, you're just kind of whatever. And I sent him like a folder. Time goes by. It's cool, whatever. And probably a month and a half goes by, and I guess he was scrolling through his Instagram feed, and one of my beats caught his eye, and he called me. It had to have been 2 o'clock in the morning. Teck, this beat. What's this beat? I'm like, it's free. It's available. You want it? He's like, send it to me right now. I'm like, all right. So I sent it to him, and I sent him a couple beats, and he was like, yo, you know, I'm producing a whole joint album for my son. And I was like, no, I had no idea. And he's, all right. So he linked me with his son, and sent him 3 or 4 beats, and his name's Papaya Sauce. He's a very dope MC. He's, think Hell Rail when he was on Dipset on steroids. And
yeah.
You know, he's very, very different in that lane, but he's very, very hungry as well. And to have my sound accompany with Rock's sound on his project is definitely out of this world as far as that aspect. So it's still a work in progress. There's a lot of James being gone through, but I'm very happy to be able to work with a Legends, you know, family, and keeping it in the family is definitely hip hop.
So we've talked about your beats and your projects and all this music. For the people who are watching this, they might be getting antsy to hear some of it. So where do they hear your music? Where do they go online to browse your online beat catalog? How do they follow you on social media?
So on Beatstars, you can check out my page. It's techbeats.com, TECK beats.com. Full catalog's up on there. I'm on Spotify. Pretty much every streaming outlet that you can think of I'm on there. And SoundCloud, YouTube, just search Tecknowledgy RI, and you'll be able to find me everywhere. Got a lot of stuff in the works, a lot of stuff coming, especially a solo debut project that I'm producing myself. So it's definitely a lot of different surprises in the works.
Okay, so if you don't want to be caught off guard by these surprises, you'll definitely want to follow my man Teck on all social media platforms. Listen to his catalog. Get in tune with it. Appreciate you for sitting down and taking your time to explain your process and tell your story, man. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Paint One. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Much continued success to you.
We're chilling right now, Tecknowledgy, producer, Traffic in the Sky, off Kids, you know what I'm saying? That shit is my favorite jam off Kids. Probably yours too.